Hello! I wanted to do a quick video on my childhood diagnoses. Also, first video with glasses. I know my eyes look very silly. I don't want to wear contacts anymore because it's late, but my glasses are insane. I realize that my prescription's really bad. My eyes are really, really poor. But I wanted to get my kind of thoughts in order. There's a bunch of stuff spinning around in my head, and if I don't get it down now, I never will. So, I don't know. Let's just jump in. When I was 10, I was diagnosed with OCD. When I was 13, I was diagnosed with depression. Around the same time, I was diagnosed with POTS, which is a heart blood pressure condition. And while this is not diagnosed, it's very clear, and I've had it my whole life. I'm hyper flexible. My joints are a little funky. Double jointed is another very common term. My joints are kind of like made of bubble gum is the best description I can give you. So I'm going to start with the OCD because that came first. At 10 years old, I was prescribed Prozac for OCD, and I absolutely understand where those symptoms come from, or that diagnosis came from, I should say. One thing I want to start with is my parents were great about taking my mental health seriously. Anytime I brought something up, I went to a doctor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and it was addressed. So by no means is my late diagnosis, my not yet diagnosis, their fault. It was not ignored. I was a female doing well in school and had a couple of friends, so it can't be autism, right? That's just how it is. The OCD is what stands out probably the most to me, so that's what I'm going to spend the most time on. When I was pretty little, I felt like I needed everything to match up as far as sides of my body. So I would snap with one finger, and then on the other side of my body, I would snap with the other, and then I'd have to start with, say, my left side because my right side started last time, so it was fair, and then I'd snap with my right. So it was back, forth, back, so that every side was fair. Same with steps, same with blinks, same with anything that was one-sided had to be equal. And that was it just felt like it was right. It was the right thing to do because it was fair. This all came to a head when I started having intrusive thoughts, which we all have. I just didn't understand what they were. And I have a pretty severe history of mental illness in my family. So I thought I was hearing voices. I didn't understand internal versus external. So I brought it up, because they were pretty scary intrusive thoughts. So I told my mom immediately. I also had this rule that I had to tell her everything, to the point where that was really extreme, because I was told once that I needed to tell her anything that was wrong ever. So it was, extreme. I touched a wall once with wet hands and was worried that I might have smeared the paint, and went to her crying, telling her that I might have smeared the paint on a wall. Just beyond what it needed to be. So I was taken to a psychiatrist and diagnosed with OCD, which again, I understand where that came from. But then was asked to document when these symptoms came up. And of course I got in the car and it was fresh on my mind. So I was documenting everything. And my mom looked over at me and was like, it cannot be happening that often. So my brain went, oh, I'm doing something wrong. I shouldn't be like this. And then pretty soon after just stopped doing all of it because I realized that it was socially wrong. That's not how OCD works. You don't just turn it off because somebody tells you that you shouldn't do it. That's just not how that works. I work with OCD fairly frequently. It's not a lot, but I've not ever seen somebody just go, oh, you told me I shouldn't do it? Okay, I won't. Because the compulsion's still there. It's serving a purpose. Mine was just because it felt right and I liked it, which is maybe a really poor example. Like, it's probably a really poor description of stimming and control and restrictive behaviors, but that's just how my brain worked. Was, oh, I want to be socially acceptable, so I'll stop doing the things that make me comfortable. Okay, that's been a trend through my life. The next one I mentioned was depression, which could still be accurate. Like, I still fit a lot of those symptoms, but I can also tell when that is going to be worse. I really think that most severe depression has been burnout. I push and I push and I push and I fake and I fake and I fake and I mask, and I just at some point can't do it anymore. And I just go into the spiral. And now I can recognize that. But as a teenager, I was 13 when I was diagnosed with depression. As a teenager, I didn't understand that. I went to a very, very small grade school. My graduating class was 9. And then I went to a high school where my class was 47, which again, still very small. But from 9 to 47, I was hugely overwhelmed. So I'm pretty sure I just dove into burnout for like 4 years, and my depression was intense. And medication after medication after medication did not help. And the one medication I kind of stuck with because I was tired of not opening up to therapists because I didn't know how, and not opening up to psychiatrists because I didn't know how. The one medication I just stuck with because I was tired of the withdrawals, because withdrawing from antidepressants can be really, really ugly. If I like missed a day with that, or like didn't have it with me, whatever, I'd fall asleep in class. Like I didn't like how I felt with or without it, and I felt like I didn't have a choice to not take it. So eventually I weaned myself off of that one and stopped taking it, and didn't really notice a different mood wise. So again, that might be a mixed bag, but I think most of that is burnout. There might also be some clinical depression there, just coming from, again, my professional opinion. The next one I mentioned was POTS, and the only reason I bring this up is because I see it in overlap pretty frequently with autism and POTS. It's just a regulation issue, honestly. Sometimes our bodies are a little bit funky. They don't always work quite the way we would like them to. And POTS was a freaking journey to figure out. You stand up and you almost pass out every time. It's a little concerning, but there's no just like direct answer. So when I finally had that answer, it was really, really nice to just have a word to describe it, kind of like, autism. A word to describe what's going on with you. And after living with years and years of almost passing out literally every time I stood up, it was nice to just be able to say, oh, that's because of POTS, and I have ways to manage it now because I know what to look up and what to research, and I also had medication at the time. I did stop taking that medication because it was hard to get the pharmacies to prescribe it, and withdrawal from it was really, really ugly for me as well. But I manage it fine, and like I have answers, and it's been really nice having answers. And then the last thing that I mentioned was hyperflexibility. This is not a diagnosis. It's just, when your elbow can bend way, way further than it should, and you can touch your pinky to your wrist and your thumb to your wrist, and have never had an issue putting hands flat on the floor and, touching your toes. Hyperflexibility is very, very obvious to me, and I only, again, mention this because I see it frequently with individuals with autism. Like, it just seems to come up for some reason. I don't know why that is. I don't know why POTS is the same. But these are just patterns that I've noticed through my life that I wanted to document while I was thinking about it. Again, hence the glasses, hence the late night, just wanting to get it down while I was thinking about it. That's really all I had. I don't really know how to transition out of this or to end. So I guess I'm just gonna hit the stop button, but I don't know. Have a good night. Have a good whatever. It's been nice documenting this.